But let's move into the next topic, and that is Blake Griffin trade rumors. And we're going to start doing stuff now where we're setting up topics a little bit more. We're going to give you the facts of each and every topic. And I'm glad we made this decision before this podcast, because literally for this whole topic, there are zero facts. There is not a single truth to any of the rumors floating around. And there's articles, there's from DetroitSportsNation.com that's citing Feature Hoops saying the Pistons spoken with 3 teams in the last few days about a potential Blake Griffin trade per source. Not going to give you the source. And then from FadeAwayWorld.net also cites the Feature Hoops tweet. And then ClutchPoints.com also cites the Feature Hoops one, the Hoops tweet. But this is my favorite edition. They created a Blake Griffin account and liked the photo. Because I went to Blake's actual Twitter, went to his likes. He did not like this tweet. So I don't think that there's an actual rumor that 3 teams have talked to Blake Griffin about, or talked to Detroit Pistons about Blake Griffin being traded. But let's just play fantasy. It's off season. So there's no truth to these rumors. But if Blake Griffin was made available by the Detroit Pistons, the team that made the playoffs last year, their best player in Blake Griffin, making him available for trades, I mean, probably their best star in a long time on this team, what teams would be out there to take on Blake's contract and his play style? What are the best fits out there? What are the possible fits? What do you think that if a rumor's true, what are the 3 teams that could possibly be reaching out to Detroit to talk about Blake Griffin, Dave?
The first one that comes to mind is definitely the Miami Heat. They're a team that is clearly star hunting right now, and I know that they, Chris Paul was the one of most recent history, but before that was Bradley Beal, and I think both of those are at a standstill right now due to the cost involved. I think right now they're reaching out to other teams trying to see, maybe we can pull your star, maybe we can get yours, and I guarantee you they have reached out to the Detroit Pistons about this, because pairing Blake Griffin with Jimmy Butler would be fantastic for them moving forward. Gives them another star, gives them someone who can do a little bit of everything. Blake last season was incredible. His all-NBA level talent, shooting threes in volume. I mean, being able to facilitate as a big man from the low post. He literally can score at will. It's amazing how good he is, and it's disappointing, the fact that the Pistons don't have the right pieces around him. So I see Miami as the opportunist here, trying to move some capital around and see if they can take a swing at Blake Griffin.
Yeah, before we get into why Detroit could possibly think about moving him or why they shouldn't move him, Ricky, is there another team out there that's not a Miami that you'd look to acquire Blake Griffin? That might be a part of those 3 teams that Feature Hoops is saying that a source is telling them they've inquired about Blake Griffin.
Well, the first thing I want to say is this is from the Clutch Points article.
Yeah, it's not an article.
Well, whatever it is, the word vomit that you want to call it.
Yeah.
They mentioned that the Chicago Bulls were mentioned, and my first thought was, why would we even be mentioned? We've got our bigs locked down. We got our nice young core. Keep our name out of these words that put together to make
fake
a
news.
nice little
We can start
article.
using fake news for fun now.
Fake news. A team that I was thinking about, Miami's interesting. What about Houston? And the reason why, now I don't know, I immediately went to, would this work out? But the reason why I think Houston, they've already acquired a big 2. They've got Russ and James. But one of the big things that I think of that has hurt the Rockets in the playoffs is Clint Capella's nice, but he gets run off the floor. Blake can be a guy that you're playing down low, isn't going to get run off the floor, can hit threes from the outside, or has developed that in his game to where I would almost, if I'm Houston, if I could get that done, I could pair a big 3 of James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Blake Griffin. Plus, what's the bigger FU to Chris Paul that, hey, we're going to trade you and then win a championship with Blake Griffin?
Can I talk?
There isn't a bigger FU than that. If they made the move, it'd be true. But there's no way they can make a deal.
Come on.
Acquiring Blake
the only
Griffin.
way that would have worked if this in a direct trade is if Stan Van Gundy were still in charge of the Detroit Pistons, so he could build a fucking wall with Andre Drummond and Clint Capella at the 4 and 5.
Yeah, Capella would have to go over. I don't think they have any picks to give up.
It's definitely going to be if that were a scenario, I think that would be a sweet 3-team deal. A piece in the middle to eat that center contract of Clint Capella. Though you do bring up a good point about him being run off the floor. Because if you look at his minutes from the playoffs last year against Golden State, in the games he was playing 26, 32, 34, then 21, 25, and then 30. So he by far had the lowest minutes of any starter on that Houston Rockets team. So it's definitely something to consider that he might not be the best fit when it comes to playoff basketball. Regular season, I mean, we all know what Harden and Capella can do off that pick and roll at the top of the key, but it's hard to imagine.
Does he answer the question of why was Clint Capella being run off the floor? Does Blake Griffin solve that?
Yeah, I mean, Blake Griffin definitely would be a fix for that because Clint's basically the anti-spacing. When Golden State wants to stretch it out wide, Clint Capella loses his advantage because he's a low post dominated center. And Blake's a 4, and you can run PJ Tucker at the 3, and you don't really lose that much.
But here's the thing with that then, is the team that was running Clint Capella off the floor was Golden State going small.
Right.
Let's look at now this Western Conference, and that Golden State team isn't the same Golden State team that the Houston Rockets were going up against last year. Which team's going to be running small lineups out there that could give the possibility of Clint Capella being run off the floor?
I could see...
Because the Lakers are bigger. They're
Clippers.
a bigger team with Boogie, AD, and LeBron.
Yep.
You look at the Clippers. Clippers still have... their best 2 players are over 6'8".
Yeah, but they're both wings. I mean, they're a wing and guard dominant team. When their center is basically Montrezl Harrell off the bench or Kabengele or basically a utility 5 out there.
Yeah, Kabengele would probably give you more spacing, but Harrell's not giving you spacing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
like, he's a smaller center.
Go up against
so
him. Yeah, it's true.
At 6'9", 6'10", he's not exactly able to be a dominant player. I mean, offensively, dominant. Defensively, he's not much of a push down there. So, I don't know. I agree that not every team's going to run it. And since the Golden State Warriors are now pretty much hamstrung this year with injuries for Klay Thompson, and you're going to be watching Steph closely, I don't know how viable they will be in a playoff deep run. But still, I think you have to be mindful of small ball lineups just because the trend for the last 3 years has been continuing to run the court heavy, play smaller, play quicker, up tempo, and really make 5s kind of a liability out there for the other team. I mean, we saw it with Rudy Gobert as well, defensive player of the year, and yet come playoff time, his viability kind of drops down a bit.
Well, I just don't know which teams would be able to throw up a lineup that good, that is that small, that would run off a big again.
And I don't necessarily think it has to be like, oh, well, this team is not going to be small, so Clint Capella is going to be out there all the time. The thing for me is when you look at where the NBA is, where it has been, the 3 ball is king. And with me, would I rather have a 5 like Rudy Gobert is a good example to where I'm almost like it's a tough decision. You're not going to take him off the court because of what he brings defensively. I don't think Clint Capella is in the same category as Rudy Gobert defensively. And when you think about what D'Antoni likes to do with how many 3s this team already shoots, why am I going to have a 4 or a 5? Because I would put Blake more at the 4, I would think,
but Capella's
than the
worked
5.
on that team.
But here's the thing. If the NBA is telling you where it's at, Capella does not shoot 3s.
But
Blake Griffin does. If other teams are going to shoot 3s, 3 is more than 2, you're going to lose.
Thank you, Ricky.
Wow.
It's math.
He just
Boom,
John
basic
that
math.
shit. Boom.
But
I also have a trade.
the thing with the Rockets too is that they're going to need to change up their style of play with James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and I think you're going to see a lot more pick and roll. And especially with Russell Westbrook, because that was one thing that he did do well last year was run the pick and roll with Steven Adams. And having a guy like Clint Capella is going to be much more dangerous. People are going to bring up Blake Griffin killed it with CP3 in Los Angeles running the pick and roll, so maybe that could solve your problems. But I just don't see a trade working out, and you can come with yours next. I don't see a trade working out just because they gave up so many picks to get Russ.
Yeah, and that's the thing where the picks would be the interesting part. Before I say the trade, I will say I would rather, it's interesting because with having Capella, you could have hey, if they go with Russ, we can run Capella to the basket. But in this NBA, I rather have Blake can take a step back. Oh, he's open for 3. I'll take 3 more than 2 because, basic math. Here's the trade. So the Rockets would get Blake. That's all they'd get. The Rockets would have to give up Clint Capella, which is $14.8 million, PJ Tucker, which is $8.3 million, 4-year contract, 2-year contract, and then a 1-year contract of Donnell House Jr., and then with a trade exception, because it's got here, Deonta Davis of 1.6. They would have to cut Capella, PJ Tucker, and then find about $5.2 million somewhere to make the trade work.
I'm going to just interject here and say I would want to move away from Gordon instead of PJ Tucker. because PJ Tucker, you need him if you're moving Capella on. He was the guy who was able to stand up and play center
You could do Capella,
for them.
You could do Capella and Gordon for Griffin. That works.
I'm just and then probably ideal situation for the Pistons to get what they want. Maybe a third team being involved here.
Yeah.
To soak the contract for Capella and give the Pistons maybe some younger wing talent out there to help them continue building. So I think that they're still like the Pistons are a team where it's weird that they're feeling the win now mode with Blake Griffin out there. Last season I know he ended on that injury and it was kind of a little bit heartbreaking because like he was rolling, like he absolutely was doing fantastic. Kennard was playing well, but they just didn't seem to have everybody there at the right time all at the same time. So I don't know, going all in this year with the East in its current state, they might see this as their 1 year window. And if they're like, look, if we can't get it done this year, then maybe blow it up. But if somebody gives you a deal right now, I mean...
But you got to see who they drafted. They went with Sekou. Where me, I'm looking at that where, hey, Sekou's not ready for a win now. He's going to need to develop.
For sure.
Why not get the most we can get for Blake now rather than wait?
Why is now the prime time to trade Blake?
I don't know that... I think right now is the prime time for teams to offer for him because this offseason has been such a shakeup for many teams. And I see urgency out of teams like the Rockets, like the Heat, where if they could add that piece next to their already, double star in Houston or star and potential star growing in Miami, like that would be a fantastic move for them this year. I think the East is up for grabs with the Bucks getting worse this offseason, KD not being available on the Nets, and the Celtics basically holding ground with that Kemba for Kyrie switch. So we're going to have to see who's really going for it. I think that's the reason why it's hard for me to believe the Pistons, and I know we already said, like, there's no substantial confirmation of this. This is most likely just rumor mill churning in the offseason. But I would think this is the year the Pistons are like, hey, let's go for it this year, and if we can't get it done, then let's see what the offers are for Blake. But if you get a really sweet offer from some teams who are willing to overpay, I mean, why not kick the tires?
Here's why I think that I'm going to throw out my team, and then I'm going to get into why they won't kick the tires and why this trade won't happen and why I think they're going to hold on to Blake until his contract runs out. The only other team that I would throw out there that makes sense is Denver. Denver is the only other team without a second star. You can make the argument that, they see Jamal Murray as a star, but right now he's not that player. And if you're looking at what Blake can do, he's one of 3 players that did something of scoring 24 or more points per game, grabbing more than 7 boards a game, and dishing out more than 5 assists per game. LeBron, Blake, and Giannis, and at least per win shares, Blake was better than LeBron last year. Obviously, LeBron dealt with injuries, played less games than Blake. I'm not saying Blake Griffin's better than LeBron James, but at least statistically last year, if you're looking at win shares only, Blake was better than LeBron. And Blake was extremely efficient from deep. Ricky mentioned his 3-point shooting, the way that he grew last year as a 3-point shooter, shooting 36%. That was a career best for the amount of threes that he was taking. Yeah. And that's better than what Giannis was doing at 25% from 3. And that was better than what LeBron's doing at 33.9%. And Blake just seems so much comfortable. And I think the biggest thing, too, is Blake obviously has the concerns about injuries flaring up again. He's had, obviously, more major ones in his time as a Clipper, and he obviously had the lingering one that showed up near the end of the Bucks-Pistons series. I don't think that one's too serious. I think he's going to be fine this year. Yeah. But Blake is so athletic and so gifted that I feel like with those injuries and not playing and playing alongside CP3 and DeAndre Jordan, he hasn't had time to fully come into the player that he can be, and now we're finally seeing him become that player. And if I'm Detroit, I don't see a point of moving away from him this year. You have him until at least next year. And he has a player option in 2021, 2022 for $38.9 million.
It's hard to imagine people going away from that, but
he might.
People, that's the thing.
And the thing is, he might go away from it and just re-up for a longer deal because, sign at 32 for 5 years, you'd be put in at 37. So maybe you want to take that risk and just get the length quicker. That's the only reason why I could see him maxing out. But let's say he sticks there until 2021, 2022 and becomes a free agency in 2022. You have 3 years of Blake Griffin. And next year, you're going to be away from Reggie Jackson's $8 million. You're going to be away from Langston Galloway's $7 million. You're going to be away from, and then you'll be coming up on Andre Drummond's player option for 28.7. Drummond may or may not take that. I don't really know. I mean, obviously, we were talking about that with Whiteside, but Drummond is younger. And if they do get away from Drummond's 28, Reggie's 18.
Yeah, I was like,
and then the 7 from Langston Galloway. You're freeing up near $40 million in cap space, and that means you can go out and plenish this team around Blake Griffin. It doesn't even have to be a star. And we see what teams like Indiana have been able to do.
It's true.
And I really like Dwayne Casey as a coach, and I think he's obviously shown that he can win games in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I think that Detroit can make a case that keep Blake Griffin. He's such a unique player, and build out the depth around him to get players that can play well next to him, unlike Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond, and fill out this team to better suit his skill set because he has such a unique skill set that it's going to be so tough to find. And right now you might be getting offers, but they might not be the best offers because you're getting Paul Millsap and maybe Michael Porter Jr. from the Denver Nuggets, and you're getting Eric Gordon and Clint Capella from the Rockets, and you're getting Kelly Olynyk, James Johnson, and maybe Justice Winslow from the Heat. Like, I don't see the need to do that because you're not getting a great haul from him. And Blake seems to love Detroit. So
he seems pretty in. My concern is just with his timeline. Like, you got a star who's now 30, who is injury prone in his career the last couple of years, 75 games this last year. Before that, it was 58, 61, 35, 67. Like, can you build around a guy who has not shown he's been able to stay healthy? He's now hitting 30, so that adds another like take against you. And I get the NBA with load management and everything that the players' power is kind of pushing towards a more player comfortable league. I mean, yes, there's every reason to believe that he will play, 65 games or something like that this year and be comfortable. But you have to have all of those weighing on the negative for building around a Blake Griffin already versus going after someone who is in their mid-20s who you can maybe steal away from another team as a key building block. Or like Ricky said, you drafted young Sekou, you've got Luke Kennard, you've got a couple of young pieces on this team, and you want to take more swings at it. I mean, you just signed Derrick Rose for that 2-year deal, $7 million a pop. That's going to be an attractive deal if people want to move on. If you're really, and I'm not saying they should do this, I'm just saying that the Pistons have the option if they want to clean house. Like, we really, really enjoyed, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but Bruce Brown in Summer League looked like he put it together. Last year he was starting a lot for them because of pure need, but in Summer League he showed how good he is against a lower level competition. It's like, okay, this guy's legitimate. He deserves his spot on this team. I'd be curious to see if, they do end up moving on from their two big pieces in Blake and Andre Drummond. What would a revamped roster look like? We see what my thought is see what the Pelicans ended up looking like. David Griffin looks like a goddamn genius.
But here's the thing with that. You're not getting a Lakers-type haul for Blake Griffin.
No.
There isn't one out there. And so that immediately takes away the Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and the picks part of that Blake Griffin trade, or the Anthony Davis trade.
Understood.
And you got so lucky to get the number 1 pick, and not only to get the number 1 pick, but to get Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
We saw the best player in 15 years come out of college and be there right for the picking for you to take. So while it is great to see New Orleans Pelicans, New Orleans got so lucky.
Well, and
you could do Memphis as a similar one then.
I would say Atlanta. Like, Atlanta's a team where did they get a top? Like, I know that the Trae Young Luka was like back to back, but like, look at last year. I mean, they traded up for DeAndre Hunter, but like, they didn't get a first overall pick. They didn't get a second overall pick, but they're still a team that looks really good youth-wise moving forward. And like Dave mentioned timeline.
But they sucked.
Like,
that's how they got to that situation.
I think they're going to be a lot better this year.
No, I'm saying they got there because they sucked.
Yeah,
but they also got
there because they
had that
bad.
Memphis pick as well. Like Dallas. I'm thinking Mavericks. Dallas was not a terrible team. Like, they were bad, but they weren't like not Memphis. New York.
Quit
bad.
picking on Memphis.
Well, you said Memphis, and
that's because
Memphis was still bad. They were the second worst team in the league.
I'm saying they weren't New York, Phoenix, or Cleveland bad. They weren't up there at the top. Dallas
they were.
Dallas?
Memphis. I thought you were talking about Memphis.
No, I'm saying Dallas.
Jesus Christ.
Because that's the other pick that the Hawks had.
We're a little rusty. This is our first one back.
My point is going off of what Dave said with timelines. You've got the Bucks. You've got the Sixers. You've got the Celtics. If I am the Pistons, I am not running into a buzzsaw. I am not doing the same thing we did this year of go to the 8th seed, play the Bucks, lose to the Bucks. Like, you're not going to have a good time. I have Sekou. He's going to need to develop. I'm going to trade Blake for the best package I can get right now. And with Paul like you brought up Paul Millsap, that would be probably the deal that you could work out with the Nuggets. You're getting another guy, though, that at the end of the year, buy Paul. That's $30 million off my books.
But what are you going to do with that money? You're not going to find a star like Blake Griffin.
I'm not saying you're going to find a star, but
that's my point.
But it doesn't link you to here's the worry I have. If they don't make the deal now, will they get a better offer down the road? I don't think so. Right now, I think we're in an arms race because of what happened in free agency. Everyone's trying to get all these stars, and it's like, we got to have the best stars. We got to have a plethora of stars because of what just happened with the Kawhi decision. And I look at the other teams in the East. Boston, they're locked in with the Kemba Walker era
Jaylen
moving
Brown,
forward.
Jason Tatum, Gordon
The
Hayward
Sixers are the team where it's like they are locked in, and is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But Ben's locked down. Toby's locked down. Joel's locked down.
What's your point?
And then the Bucks, it's after not this season, but next season. Does Giannis stay? Does Giannis go? I'm looking at it as the Pistons. If I go all in with Blake right now, I'm not winning a championship. Any of those teams are beating me in the first round. Let me get draft picks. Don't care where they are. Draft picks for Blake to kind of assist where my timeline is,
I don't think
which
they're
is younger.
in such a dire need to strip down and rebuild and get picks because, first off, it hasn't been proven that they can pick well. I mean, when was the last time that Detroit has had a great first-round pick? I mean, you could make a pick that Luke Kennard's been good, but he's not great.
Look who's the guy taken right after him.
I don't even remember.
Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, there you go. I mean, like you look at their drafting and they've been able to find some fine players, but they haven't had a star since Grant Hill, really. And even before that, they won a championship, but Chauncey wasn't a star. He was a very good to great player. Ben Wallace was a defensive player of the year, but he was limited. Tayshaun Prince was a solid player. Sheet Hamilton was a trade, but they didn't draft him. And I'm forgetting the other one. Rip Hamilton. He was a fine player too.
That was
he was a good player.
unique time in Detroit history.
Exactly, but they didn't have a star, and it's so hard to find stars nowadays. Blake is a star. You're not going to find that star power, and maybe you'll get lucky and be like Atlanta and trade away the best player in the draft and just happen to get one of probably the second best player in the draft in Trae Young. Like, they got extremely lucky with Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, at least after one season. Hold on, I still have more. You've been talking for hours, Rick. The other thing, too, is, yes, it's an arms race right now, and people want to trade, but a lot of people have unloaded already. Lakers had the best haul to offer anybody, and they already unloaded it. The Clippers probably had one of the better hauls, too, with that Miami pick, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They unloaded it already. Miami doesn't have anything to give you outside of picks. But if you're giving them Blake Griffin and Jimmy Butler, they're going to be a decent team. And Miami's always a decent team.
And they're already out of picks, too.
And they're already out of picks, too. You look at Denver. Denver's going to be a dominant team for the next 4 years, 5 years, especially if you give them Blake Griffin. You are giving them another star. This is a team that you already have without Blake Griffin as your number one seed in the Western Conference. So you're not getting a good draft pick there. You're not getting the ability to find a star there. And the other team that we threw out there was Houston.
Yeah.
And Houston doesn't have the draft picks. So what are you getting that is going to be a haul for this star? I don't think it's out there, and I'd rather be competitive. Yeah, you might not win a championship, but you'll at least be competitive and have the ability to turn it around. You know, maybe not right away, maybe not when he's 31, but when he's 32, you might be able to fill out that depth a little bit more and help him out, and maybe you can become like a Pacers team, and maybe you won't be Philadelphia 76ers or Bucks level if they keep Giannis, or Celtics or Nets level, but you can be one of those scrappy 4th or 5th, 6th seeds, and that's going to at least give you longevity of your lifetime and of your team.
The one thing I will also say before Dave jumps in is I don't think the Pistons make the playoffs this year. That's what I'm saying, because Miami got better. I think the Hawks will be better. If the Bulls are healthy, they could be making a run at the 8th seed. The Pacers are injured. Like, Vic is injured, and when he comes back, is he going to be the same Vic?
They were the same team without Vic last year.
I'm just saying, they're a question.
But Vic is coming back. So they lose Bojan.
The point
they're going to get Vic back.
That's
Vic's
a topic
better
for
player.
another day.
This is the topic that you brought up, that they might not make the playoffs.
Well, yeah, the Pistons might.
The Bucks are a playoff team.
Yes. Bucks,
Sixers are a playoff
Raptors,
team.
Sixers,
Celtics are a
Nets.
playoff team. Pacers are a team.
And Magic.
Nets are not a playoff team. Nets are not a for sure
I
playoff
think
team.
Kyrie can
They're
bring
not a
them
for
to
sure
the playoffs.
team.
They
I
got
don't
to the
think they're-
playoffs last year
The sixth
with
seed.
Karis LeVert missing a good chunk of the season.
With
and
Kyrie
D'Angelo
Kyrie
Russell.
Irving is one.
Is he better or worse than D'Angelo Russell?
I'm not answering that question.
That's the question you have to answer, though.
He's always been more talented than everybody.
Yeah.
They should have been the number 1 seed. They were 4 because of Kyrie Irving. What if Kyrie doesn't like half the players?
Yeah.
Right? What if Kyrie gets injured? Because he usually does get injured. I mean,
Spencer
you
Dinwiddie.
just got rid of your best player from last year who meshed well with the team, at least locker room wise.
Yes.
Maybe not fully playstyle wise.
Right,
There's no guarantee that Kyrie will. You have an aging DeAndre Jordan that you just gave $10 million. It's not a for sure guarantee that they are going to go to the playoffs.
I think they got some weaknesses at the 3-4, but I do think that team, if they got to the playoffs last year with about just over a 500 record, I think this year with Karis having another year under his belt, being fully healthy, him, Spence, Jared Allen, Karooks, like I do believe in that core being able to get right back there. I think they're on par with where the Magic are if Kyrie is there for half the season.
I think the Nets, Magic, and Pistons are all linked together, and then that way, and I see the Magic probably falling off too. They still don't have a point guard. They're relying heavily on the growth of Markelle Fultz coming back, and even then, look at the Raptors. Like the Raptors lost Kawhi Leonard, and I don't know what they will be without him.
Yeah.
And you have an aging Kyle Lowry, you have an aging Marc Gasol, you have an aging Pascal Siakam, and we talked about
Serge
this
Ibaka, too.
earlier too, that they might trade some of these pieces off, and this team might not even make the playoffs as well after winning the finals. I think the Pistons make
the East
playoffs.
is going to be wild. I think that's all I'm going to take away from that. I'm in on the boat of, I think this year, if you're the Pistons, you run it out there and you see how good this team can be. I'm with you, Sean. Right now, there's not enough value to move Blake Griffin off of your team. I think post-December, what is it, like 15th or whatever, where 40% of the league will be tradable again, like because everybody just signed contracts again. Then you can reevaluate, like, how's our season going? Is everyone healthy? Are we really fucked up right now? Or are we in a position where maybe we can look to add talent to this team to bolster up this roster for the playoff run? Because I do believe this year is kind of like their best window in recent memory to go for a deeper round of the playoffs. I'm with you guys all realistically. Like, this is not a team that I would pick to, go out of the Eastern Conference Finals. But at the same time, Blake Griffin has shown that he's a fucking monster at times. And I would love to see him be able to run it back with a deep playoff run and see if he can go head-to-head with someone like Giannis and be like, how do they match up fully healthy? Like, Giannis has a better roster and seemingly a system around him. But if the Pistons can add those midseason acquisitions to continue to go around them, maybe we see development out of, some of these younger guys in this roster, and it works out well. I think that you hold on Blake this year, and then next offseason will kind of be the, like, all right, do we feel confident? Do we feel like this is his final year and then he's going to walk on us? Or, where's that long-term deal looking for? I mean, are you going to give Blake Griffin a max contract moving forward at age 31 for his 32nd through 36th season? That's a big question.
What do you think they're missing?
The Pistons?
Yeah.
I think with me, they're missing another star that's not Andre Drummond. Like, for me, it comes to the point, like, if I'm keeping Blake, I've got to get rid of Andre Drummond, and I just don't think that, A, a team is going to want him, and B, I think he does take that option to where it's like, great, I'm locked down to him next year as well. Like,
who's the star in the Magic?
I would like, and that's the thing. The Magic don't have a star, but to me, the Magic are a team that, hey, they might make the playoffs at 7 again, but then get bounced out in the first round. Like,
But
because
they
don't
made
have
the
a star.
playoffs. You said the Pistons might not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't. And the thing
I'm
with
saying,
the
what
Pistons,
are they missing to miss the playoffs?
For me, I would go with, like, Reggie Jackson is not that good at the point guard. I would like
your guy D Rose.
I would like a star. Derrick Rose is a
D
backup.
Rose is a former
He's
MVP, baby.
Backup at best right now. He's not the guy I want running out there.
Hey,
as
are
my
we talking
starter.
elbow bone spurs or non-elbow bone spurs?
This guy knows.
Well, he's got those
Are we
bone
talking
spurs.
Steph D Rose or are we talking bad D Rose?
I would look for either a star at the wing or guard position, and I just don't know if they'll get it.
I mean,
They have a star at the wing position. It's Blake Griffin.
yeah, I was going to say,
Well, I mean, to pair with Blake Griffin.
to answer your question, the Magic have defense. That's the difference between the Magic
and the
Pistons.
Supernova offense.
The Supernova offense is also there. Terrence Ross, shout out. Thank you, Ricky. No, I mean, like, that's the biggest difference right now is the Magic have a really well-balanced team, and they've got an incredible defensive system, and they've got long guys out there to support that. They can be entirely switchable. Like, it's amazing how little credit they got at the end of last year on that run. The Pistons need to get some additional spacing at the 1 and the 3 if you're going to roll with if you're going to roll out with Andre Drummond at the 5.
There you go, Dave.
Someone who has just, he's gotten better at his shooting. His effort's gotten better, but he's just not quite, worth $28 million probably. I think you need to be able to open up that spacing, and I'm really looking forward to... I think the easy move is to say, obviously, a point guard who is better than Reggie Jackson. Like, that's step one, because your offense doesn't flow right because of him. I mean, that's just what it is. It hasn't been able to function the correct way. Blake's been running point forward, which, yeah, he's dominant. He's amazing with his usage, but, like, ideally you're getting someone out there who's a confident, like, 3-and-D player at the point. Like, if they had been able to swing at Malcolm Brogdon to add as a point guard on that team, that is dirty. That would have been fantastic for them, but they weren't. So now you have to look for guys who would have been similar. If they could have got a Darren Collison had he not retired, which is just the most bizarre thing in the world to me. Like, players like that who don't need a ton of usage, but who are competent players in their role. I think that's sort of what they were aiming for at Derrick Rose, but he's still got that, like, hoping glare of upside. No, I think they're going to be close to a playoff team. I don't know. The East has they're like 10 deep as far as, like, the playoffs are concerned. And it's not good 10 deep. It's just, like, they're so close at the bottom half. That 5 through 8 section is just going to be, within a couple of games instead of spread out like it was this year.
I don't know. I just have a soft spot for Blake Griffin. So if I was being too...
He's one of the best rookie seasons ever.
If I was being too hostile, I apologize.
No, I think you're giving the Detroit fans some respect because Ricky's in the, like, championship or rebuild, and I'm like, I think this is the year. If not, you got to really evaluate paying an aging star.
I think you get one more year after this. I think this year you let Luke Kennard grow. You see what happens. You get Reggie Jackson off the books next year. You see if Drummond's wants to stay or wants to go. And after that, you could really evaluate. Just clear the slate for Blake Griffin. See what he can do. I think he's a stud. I wouldn't trade him.
Yeah, that's
if I would trade him, I'd trade him my team, the Denver Nuggets, because I want him on that team.
But would Denver give up, the shining hope and prospects of what could he be, Michael Porter Jr.?
You should absolutely do that
on top of Bol.
And that's why I think
give me all the hope.
And that's why I think that Detroit, like, that would be the most alluring package to them, because you get a possible star in Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
And if not, you're clearing up $30 million with Paul Millsap. That's the only team that makes sense to me. Is Denver, and Blake can shoot from the outside. Like, the only thing that I worry about is, like, download
defense.
Sean's
gonna 2K this later.
I would just
you guys did lose Derek Favors.
No, we didn't, because he was
I'm
Utah.
Jazz, yeah.
No, Millsap's a better defender than Blake Griffin. So
yeah.
My final thought is they were the 8th seed last year. Not much has changed. I know bringing in Derrick Rose is a change, but, like, you were the 8th seed last year. You were in a run with the Hornets, who are not going to be in that run. The Heat that will still be in that run. I don't think if you're just running it back, this is not going to be a team that gets better. It's going to be a team that's exactly where they were. But oh wait, the Heat have Jimmy Butler. They overtake you.
But the Bucks didn't get that much better. They're still a playoff team, but they didn't get better. Like, they lost Brogdon, which is going to be huge. The Raptors got significantly worse, so that's going to be easier to get a couple more wins. Philadelphia stayed probably about the same, maybe got a little bit better. Boston got a little bit worse, but they're still good. Pacers got, I think, good. I mean, you have Brogdon and Oladipo coming back. I think they're still around 48 wins.
Well, it just depends on how Vic comes back. It's the biggest question.
Maybe he'll be fine. Brooklyn, they got more talented. I won't say they got better, but they got more talented. I got to see them play out. Orlando stayed the same. So, I mean, you're looking at it, two of the teams below them got worse. And if you're looking at it, it doesn't mean that they have to win 50 games to make the playoffs. You just have to win a couple more times and just to secure that spot. And Charlotte got worse. Washington got worse throughout that season, so they weren't as good as the beginning of the season. Atlanta will be tricky. Chicago might not stay healthy, and Cleveland and the Knicks suck. So I still think there's a very clear way that they can make the playoffs.
If you think they can, but if you think the top 7 from last year are still playoff teams, then the Pistons aren't making the playoffs because the Heat are going to be a playoff team this year. Jimmy ain't going to be sitting at home. Jimmy don't like that. Jimmy likes playing in the playoffs.
You're comparing my least favorite player in Jimmy Butler to one of my favorite players in Blake Griffin. So fuck the kids. Fuck Miami Heat. Fuck that team. Fuck Jimmy Butler.
If they had Jimmy Butler last year, they would have been a playoff team, and now they do.
Oh my God. But what about Waders County?
Trash.
And Wade's going to come back for
Who's
one
their
more
point
year.
guard? Dragic?
No,
No, it's Winslow.
It's Justice.
Trash. He's trash too. Come on. Kid can't shoot.
All
You're just wrong.
Kid can't shoot.
Look at his splits since he started playing point guard
Kid
last
can't
year.
shoot.
He can absolutely shoot.
Kid can't shoot.
He absolutely can. I will.
What is he? What
is
is he up from 25 to like 33%?
I will sit here and stall until you look up his stats from when he took over as point guard.
He started playing point guard like December, right, or was it February?
I believe it was whenever Dragic went down. Not gonna help
well,
you
now
out.
I gotta look up Goran Dragic.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying, Justice Winslow as a point guard has really worked out well for him in his career.
I mean, yeah, he definitely deserves more than 38 games. I still don't know when he played. He started. I'm looking it up, but he definitely deserves more than 38 or whatever games he played last year.
Yeah, I do believe
He didn't
is.
start point guard in November. That's when Dragic went down.
He started in December then,
Okay.
because I think they bounced around a couple pieces before they actually landed on him being the guy. But yeah, no, he was quite effective.
December 7th.
There you go. And
38%.
38% from three.
60% from the line.
60% from the line could be better. But he did play out as a point forward, running point guard like LeBron's going to do this year. Maybe he's taking a note out of his playbook. LeBron's like, oh, that Justice Winslow kid over there, maybe I should do that this year. No, I'm just with you.
I was wrong.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
I was wrong.
Justice is no
I will
stroke.
clear that up.
And Ricky,
I was wrong.
on his predictions from a couple years back where he's like, I would take Justice Winslow what was it in the
It was
redraft?
like number 2.
Number 2 in the
I take
redraft.
one.
Was it?
Might have been
We're going to have to go back and
What
look.
draft was that again?
That was the redraft.
Of what? Of what draft?
Winslow's
Ricky?
draft. I don't know. I can't remember what year it was.
God damn it! Why does anybody listen to this podcast?
Because we're
This
awesome.
is horrible.
Because they love us, Sean.
If you've made it this far in,
Oh
you're
yeah,
just
you
a
take
glutton
them.
for
You take them
punishment.
one over Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Kristaps Porzingis.
It seems like that was that year.
yeah, it's that year.
So
Devin Booker,
let's just say it's getting closer.
or did you take Devin Booker one? We'll have to read
I
this.
don't know, we'll have
Check
to
out
see.
the 2015 redraft because it was a bad video and it was pretty funny. But anyways, let us know if you think the Pistons should trade Blake Griffin or not. I'm on the side of they should not. Ricky's saying blow the fucking team up, and Dave, you
I'm
said
saying
one more year.
run it back one more year, see how they're doing.
Well, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Should the Pistons trade Blake Griffin?